This is We the Sales Engineers Podcast, show 272.
Welcome to We the SEs Podcast, the show for sales engineers by sales engineers with your host, Ramzi Majaba.
Well, welcome to another episode, everybody. I am your host, Ramzi Majaba, and I have a co-host today.
Hey.
Who are you? Why are you co-hosting with me?
I don't know why. Why am I co-hosting? I just so happen to stumble upon here, and now I meet this strange person named Ramzi Marjaba.
Do you mean strange as in like weird, or strange as in like a stranger?
Both.
Oh, all right. You almost made me swear for the first time on the podcast. Thank you for that. How you doing?
I'm wonderful. Wonderful this start of the day. Pretty happy to be on here, but also was talking to some SEs in the morning, so it was a really good start to ramp up into this episode.
Awesome. Well, the way we decided to do it, like I just messaged you, like, hey, do you want to jump on the podcast? And you're like, what topic do you want to discuss? I don't know, sales engineering, right? So you took initiative, you know which is what sales engineers do, and you reached out to your network, it sounds like, and you got some questions.
Yep.
We're going to cover three of them, and we're going to dig in deep into all three, hopefully.
Okay.
And we'll go from there. Sounds fair?
Of course.
All right. We're kind of like, this is the opposite of what sales engineers do, actually. Like, we have everything's prepared. We have the flow, the story. Like, no, we're just winging it right now. So do as we say, not do as we do. All right, let's go with question number one, Tony.
All right. So the first SE asks, okay, so on LinkedIn, I often come across content about demos and discovery. However, some of my clients primarily use English for their internal meetings, but they aspire to work in larger territories in the future where strong client-facing English and communication skills will be critical. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on how an SE can make a lasting impression in internal meetings. What are the expectations placed on them, and what steps can they take to contribute and become the go-to person for every AE?
I guess the first question is, do you really want to be the go-to person for every AE? Right? It's like that. That's never just, you're asking for more and more work. It's a good thing, right? It's good to be wanted. That will create other problems that you're going to have to deal with at a later date. Right? In terms of like, if it's a pooled model and they're always asking for you, when are you going to take vacation, basically? I'm trying to understand this question a little bit better. And like, we're not communicating with the SE right now. We just got this question. So you and I might brainstorm and we might answer a completely different question, but we'll do our best to answer this question. His clients use English for internal meetings. I guess his clients are the ones trying to aspire to become SEs at a later date.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's sounding like that. I think what I'm gathering here, because his clients are his clients are not necessarily clients, as you would say, right? AE, SEs is more like his clients could be SEs or AEs themselves.
Okay. Right? So they're okay. So looking.
I'm asking. I'm saying, like, is this something that you also grabbed from there? Because again, this is a question that was sent to me, but this individual did not necessarily give clarification or a deeper dive as to context.
So let's answer it in two different ways. Let's say someone is teaching people English, right? And his clients or her clients are already SEs, and they're trying to look like they're great SEs within internal meetings. Sounds about right.
Yeah.
So in my mind, what are the attributes of a good SE? That's a question for you, Tori. What do you think are attributes of a good SE?
I mean, first and foremost, presentation skills.
Oof. We're gonna have to disagree.
Being able to effectively communicate. So that's the one thing that obviously is the top, is like being able to effectively communicate.
I personally think the most important skill that SEs should have is asking the right questions.
Wouldn't that fall under communication?
Yeah, communication is so broad. Like you just mentioned presentation.
Oh yeah, also, I'll say high level before I drill down into something.
Right. Yes, sorry. All right, let's say communication. What is part of communication, Mr. Moze?
Asking the right questions. That's,
Ooh, that's a good
clearly
one. Where did you come up with that?
asking the right questions, and then of course also clarification. I mean, I guess that falls under asking the right questions, but
Yeah, like
there's
that's digging deep into something, right?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so what else is part of communication?
What else is part of communication? Well, I mean, this may not be so obvious, but then it is also listening.
Okay, yeah.
Right. I mean, I know because people think communication is all about the activity of it, things that are
Yeah.
coming outside. But then also, what about the receptivity of it? Receiving the input and the info.
Well, that's the thing. Like you're asking the right questions, but now you have to hear the answers. And how
Mm-hmm.
can you ask for clarifications or dig deep into something if you don't listen?
Right.
Okay, so listening. What else do you think about? It
Are
doesn't
we
have to be part of communication. It could be anything.
okay? Yeah, yeah. I mean, is having at least having a technical acumen, or at least having some technical understanding.
To do what?
Well, to be able to solve the customers or clients' issues, business issues.
Yeah, solve problems. Okay,
Yeah.
so enough technical acumen to solve problems. What else?
And then they should also know a little bit about business too.
Okay.
Understand the business, understand their business, and understand the customer's business to be able to fuse those two together to solve that issue.
Okay. These are great. And that you're going exactly where I want you to go. Now, the last thing I'll go back to communication is one thing that SEs think their job is to solve problems, right? But the harder part about solving the problem is to convince the customer that we have the best solution.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So to sell, explain the solution, sell the customer the solution, basically.
Right.
So I'm just writing it down. So if we take a look at internal meetings, I mean, what is the internal meeting about? Like it depends also. If it's just like if it's just a roadmap review.
Yep.
Right. One way to differentiate yourself is to ask the right question.
Yeah.
We're coming up with this new feature. Right. It'll be out by this date. And that's generally where most product managers end their spiel. Now, the thing about roadmaps is you're not actually communicating in person, or like you're not on audio, so you might have to send them a question through text, right? Through Slack or through Teams, whatever is being used. And the questions for me always revolve around like the customer's business. Why do customers care about this, and how can we sell it? I don't think it's going to do a big deal in differentiating you, but at least it'll get you started down that path. And there are other internal meetings where, let's say, the SE team is meeting together and they're trying to solve a problem. That's where asking the right questions, like, what is that problem? Why is it a problem? How are we going to solve it? Like, just and start brainstorming with the team, asking clarifying questions, listening to the answers, understanding what the manager is talking about. Why is it a pain point for the manager? And then when you solve a problem, that's a big part. Like you have to actually be able to solve the problem. You have to sell the manager or the team on that solution. Does that make sense?
Hopefully it makes sense to the person who had asked this question.
Well, does it
But
make
yeah,
sense to you initially?
but to me, yes.
How would you push back on this?
Ooh. Well, I mean, I don't know. And actually, you know what? Let's go through this again, because right now I'm also trying to make a response on this, and he's also sending in another one for clarification.
Okay.
Because now he's asking. He goes, what is something that he could clarify on? Because right now I know I'm like fielding the questions, but I'm also taking this individual who's, it's almost like one of those workshops on Zoom where
Right.
there's you who's, answering the questions. There's me who's, I think, fielding the questions or whatever,
Yeah.
What's some clarification again that you're still trying to ask for as he's present at this moment?
Like for this first question?
Yeah, like what are some things right here that I can ask him to clarify on?
Like what kind of meetings, like internal meetings, they could be anything. What kind of internal meeting? What is their role? What currently? What internal meetings are they talking about? Why do they even need to differentiate themselves? Right? This is going live. We're okay. So this is a pre-recording, but Tony's chatting live with someone. If you do like this format, actually, let us know. If you find it boring, let us know as well. But I don't know. I'm kind of having fun.
I didn't know if we were gonna chop it up or whatever and edit
Nope.
it.
Okay. If you want to volunteer to do it.
I don't mind. I mean, and then of course there's other people like, ooh, I have questions too. And then I'm like, all right, well, send them away. So whenever that another individual decides to as well.
But let's go back. How did you receive a response?
Not yet. So
okay. So how would you push back against what I said?
Okay, so again, can you reiterate again? Just
I mean, if you're in a meeting with your team, there's a purpose behind the meeting. What is that purpose? Try to ask the right questions during that call. It's like if a manager brings you in, and like we've had it where we used to use Oracle and they wanted to switch us to Salesforce, right? Why are you doing that? Ask clarifying questions. What are some of the challenges that you're going to face while doing that? Well, you're not going to have buy-in from the team, right? No SE wants to change the way they're doing things. And now that you're switching from Oracle to Salesforce, now you're asking SEs to do more, input more tasks, to do more work, which wasn't part of our job. Clarify why that is. Clarify the challenges that the manager is going to face. And then try to figure out how you can help that manager achieve their goal, right? So ask questions, clarify, solve the problem, offer a solution, right? So these are the pain points that the manager is going to go through. Oh, the team is not going to want to input more tasks and use that as a way for us to see what they're doing. Like, well, why wouldn't they want to input more tasks? Well, because it's adding more work on their plate. All right. Well, how can you solve that for them? Well, instead of saying that you're inputting more tasks, now you're collaborating with teammates so that if you ever go on vacation, the information's there and no one needs to bug you on vacation, right? So now you're solving the problem. It's not technical in any way, but it's a business problem. It's a personality problem. And now you can help the manager convince the team to actually use Salesforce, and you just differentiated yourself. That's just one example that's happened to me personally, right? Where they moved us from Oracle to Salesforce. Nobody was buying in because nobody had to do anything with Oracle from the SE side. And now the SE side on Salesforce, we had to input tasks. We had to add our notes to like the opportunities and all that. And nobody wanted to do it. I'm like, all right, what if you go on vacation? What happens then? Because I understood that's a pain point for the manager after having a lot of discussions. So yeah, that's just one example of how you do it. Strong English. I'm just trying to go back to strong client-facing English and communication skills will be crucial. Again, it's always easier to ask questions than to actually go on a 5-minute dissertation, unlike what I'm doing right now. Right? Just if you're able to ask, generally speaking, asking questions makes it already differentiates you versus people who are just giving their opinions without clarifying, without understanding the actual problem, right? And then I'm fairly blunt, I'm short and right to the point. So if you have communication skills, you can talk in bullet point format. People will understand that. You don't need to have like a flow or like, you just talk in bullet points, like point A, point B, point Z, done, we're done, right? Done, we're done. That's English. See, English is not even my first language, and I still get it to work. So yeah.
There you go. So I mean, you asked the question before, how would you deal with that pushback? To be honest with you, I think you answered it. You gave a lot of examples right there. Personally, I mean, that's what I would do, clarifying and then finding any ways to provide solutions because, the at least I'm thinking the manager's perspective is gonna be like, okay, now you just added, now you're proposing something that's gonna add more work to this process. How are you gonna alleviate that? And your 5 examples right there, clarifying, proposing solutions. I'm thinking also the CRM, being able to like put those notes there so that if you do leave and go on vacation, it's available to not only the manager but also the team. So now they're working more than just one person, they're not just relying on one person, that gatekeeper or that key holder. Now the keys all in that CRM. I think that's okay. I think that's kind of like I think that's pretty a pretty good. Those are pretty good examples.
I'm gonna give a second example, actually, if that's okay.
Say it again.
I'm gonna give a second example.
Okay.
So one thing I've done is ask to lead meetings, right? Not necessarily for me to present something, but let's say we're bringing in guests. I ask the manager, like I can either set it up and bring in the guests and have them speak, or just the manager said, "Oh, we're gonna bring in guests," and then I would say, like, "Hey, can I work with them? Can I lead this call?" And something that I've done recently is during the call is get the team involved in the call. A lot of people come in and do presentations and they talk for 30 minutes straight and then say, any questions? Right? It's exactly the same as a demo. When they're doing the presentation, you can help them pause, like, hey, can we hold on a second here? This seems like a very interesting topic. And hey, Tony, this is something that you mentioned last time you're interested in. What are your thoughts here? Right? Get people involved. And something else, like we had this presentation about a new product, and we were trying to break in and like sell it to different customers. So after the call was done, I kind of gamified it, and I said, all right, each person here has to come up with one or two customers that they could take this to, right? And the first thing I did was, all right, Tony, how about you share who's the customer that you're gonna share this with, and you do. And now instead of me going to the next person, all right, John or Mary, I say, hey, Tony, since you're the first one to answer, why don't you nominate the second person to answer this question? And you can pick someone that pisses you off or someone you like, right? And that tended to make people like laugh a little bit more, get more engaged, and that's a way of differentiating yourself. If you can get people to listen to the presenters, that's a huge deal. Because I know from myself, if there's a presenter and I'm not engaged, I'm on my email working on something else.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, especially if you're on the call where their screen is off. Whether it's someone on the team or it's a customer, it's tough.
And most of the times, if it's a team meeting, the cameras are off because everybody else. Some teams turn it on, but also I don't like turning on my camera for internal meetings because I want to be able to walk, move around. I don't want to sit on my desk.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So this individual asked for that question one. He said, I guess my question is more about how can a sales engineer working as part of a team collaborate effectively? I imagine they need to stand out as someone who is easy to work with and will help them, other sales members of sales, get the deal across the line.
In internal meetings? Okay, so if it's an internal meeting, let's say an account manager, an SE manager, product manager, whatever, again, try to understand the opportunity. So by asking questions, try to understand what's blocking, what could possibly block the opportunity from going through. But I think the thing that would differentiate you most is while working with customers, right? And while if you can develop a lot of SEs lack in developing relationships, right? And if it's a long sales cycle, you have the opportunity to develop relationships with the customer. You can bring in intel that is usually not available anywhere else. Go above and beyond trying to support the customer in their demos, in their POCs, whatever it is. So yeah, like work and be an asset to the account manager, as in don't be a resource, don't be someone who just does what they're told. Be a partner. If an account manager is saying you should do this and you think it's a bad idea, help them understand why it's a bad idea. What else can you do instead to get the same result that they're looking for? Right. Go ahead.
Yeah, and let me get your thoughts on this. The past couple of companies I worked with as an SE, I worked very cross-functionally. I worked with marketing. I worked with product marketing. I worked with product development, customer success, beyond just, beyond just the AE SE relationship. I like tried to work in all different capacities as possible because that allowed me to really understand messaging, to understand the product a little bit more, looking at potential new rollouts, just so, to be able to, just to have a holistic idea that when I talk to the customer, I'm not going to be in the dark with, okay, if a customer is requesting something, is it available? Is it not? Maybe something have to go back into pre-production that needs to get fixed, so on and so forth. And I'm just thinking, like, do you think that could help reinforce or drive it more for that internal team to be able to go beyond just the AESE? Like, do you think they should also work with product development, marketing, customer success to get a more holistic idea to effectively communicate and even just retain and understand the information for themselves?
Oh man, I mean, the sales team is the main two people in the sales. Like, think about it as a basketball team, right? The main people are like the starting five, and you have like 4 subs, 5 subs, whatever. But then you have the head coach, right? Then you have the conditioning coach, you have the center coach, the point guard coach. You have all these different people that are part of the team that are not performing in front of the fans. They're in the background. And now the same thing with sales engineering and sales. The team is composed of the salesperson and the SE. Behind the scenes, there's the SE manager, there's the sales director, there's also product manager, there's customer success, there's implementation. So there's the actual sales team is beyond just this SE and salesperson. It's everybody involved in making the customer experience better. Support is part of the sales team, which is not really thought about that way, because if support does a crappy job in supporting, it makes it much harder for the SE to sell or the salesperson to sell. So from an internal perspective, yes, we have to work with product management. We have to work with a lot of different people. And the more we know our product, the easier it is for us to sell our product, to go talk to customers. And a lot of companies have training, many don't. So if you don't have training, how can you get the most out of your product managers? Right? Maybe you can set up team meetings for your team about a new feature that's coming out. Right? That will differentiate you. Right? But from a customer centric perspective, the faster you can help close the deal. Right? If you go do a discovery, you ask all the right questions and get all the information you need to do the right demo. Then in the demo, you show all the right things to lead to a proof of concept, for example, or just to sell right then and there. You just differentiate yourself. Proof of concepts is where deals go to die. It's a black hole of death, right? If it's not managed properly. So if you can manage a proof of concept or a proof of value properly, you're differentiating yourself. So on and so forth. Yeah, I mean, there's a million things we can talk about here. Maybe we can reach out. What was that?
Go on the second question? Would you like to go on the second question?
Yeah, so just for the gentleman or the lady who asked the first question, I don't know, you're anonymous to me. I asked Tony not to give me your information. If you want more information, reach out to Tony, reach out to me, and we're happy to actually have a discussion with you. All right, second question.
Awesome. All right, question number 2. How to do discovery when you are uncertain on a certain technology?
That's a very common question for generalist SEs or value-added reseller SEs, right? Where they have a million products where they need to support. The way I think about it, it's much easier to understand the problem than to understand the technology. As in, like, the problem that the technology solves. And if that's the case, if you're a generalist SE, generally speaking, there are like people behind you, specialist SEs that can also support in technical discovery and all that. But as a generalist SE, you need to understand the business problem behind a technology, right? So when you're doing a discovery, you can do a business discovery fairly easily. And what I would do in that situation as well is, before I even have a discovery, I would work with the specialists, SEs, to see like, hey, what is important from in terms of technology to understand, right? Not for me to learn, but like in terms of asking questions to the customers. Have a checklist of information that I can ask. Have a frequently asked question sheet from the customer side. And that might be difficult because some specialists don't even have that. They just wing it all the time. At which point you might have to start building your own if you're running into the same technology over and over. But if you're running into the same technology over and over, you might need to invest some time to actually learn it and be a little bit more certain about it. And there's a misconception that SEs are specialists in everything, they're experts in everything. We're not. There are different kinds of SEs. There are specialist SEs who focus on technology, and there are generalist SEs who focus on accounts. The generalist SEs who focus on accounts need to be specialists in their accounts, need to know their accounts inside and out. They might not know all the technologies inside and out. For me personally, I know my customers buy 2 or 3 different products often, so I'm an expert in those products. They might ask for information about other products. It might take me a little bit longer to get that information, and I set that expectation ahead of time. Okay, my focus is this area. I'm not an expert in this area, but I will get you the information. The most important part of an SE's job is not necessarily to know the answers right there on the spot, but it's to know how to get the answers to the customers in a timely fashion. Which means I went into a discovery call. I asked some questions. They asked me some questions which I didn't know the answers to. I wrote them down. I send those questions to the specialist, to the product manager, whoever. Didn't hear back in like a day. I follow up, and I follow up, and I follow up, so that when I told the customer like, hey, I'll get back to you by the end of the week, I'll actually get back to them by the end of the week. Maybe I'll set up another call. This time I'll bring in a specialist, shorter call, targeted call, just to answer those questions. Right. One skill that SEs, like we talked about the skills that SEs should have. Another one that's never mentioned is leveraging other people. Right.
That's right.
You need to know how to ask for help. You need to know how to convince people to help you as well. Right. And sometimes that means you have to have helped them in the past, or you're willing to help them in the future, or there's something in it for them to help you right now, generally speaking, right? Yeah. I like to think people are altruistic and will help, but SEs are generally are so busy to the point where they have to say no a lot of times. So how do you change that no to yes? I think that's what you should do if you're uncertain about a certain technology. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I want to reiterate and reinforce what you said just before, especially to the new SEs, to the generalists out there, that you're not going to know every single answer to whatever business problem that's out there. There's so many that are going to be super crazy that you're just going to be like, I don't, especially right at that first call, you're not going to know. So just like you said, Ramsey, like the job is to take that question that you don't know and follow up. And, I would, in one of the companies I was at, I follow up by bringing that specialist on. Every company's varies.
Yep.
The company that I was at, I was able to take a specialist, who was involved in this one sliver of the business.
Yep.
And granted, yes, they were strong in that one area, like disaster recovery, or cloud or whatever like that.
They're specialists.
Yeah, they were specialized in that. And granted, yes, their secondary knowledge was like, the other general stuff, but they knew that part. Yep. And I would bring them in on the call. And, just that whole altruism, I think, effectively developing relationships, establishing that rapport can, of course, go a long way. Yep. But yes, it's you being able to follow up with that customer, whether it's you getting back to them with an email, jumping on another call, or jumping on with a specialist. And so, I just wanted to just reinforce that you don't,
Yeah, show 96. So that's like a long time ago. It's with a gentleman by the name of Brian Young, who worked at Cisco. And it's called Inch Deep, Mile Wide, a generalist story.
I like that.
Because so if for whoever asked that question, if you want to go check out that episode 96, I'll have a link to it in the show notes. It's all about being a generalist and being comfortable being uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And think of something about the specialist sometimes is sometimes the specialist quota is like millions of dollars, 10 million, 20 million, whatever. But I'm trying to bring them in on a deal that's 20K.
Mm-hmm.
They're most likely going to say no. Right? You have to understand that they have a business to run as well. So at which point, like, what else can you do with that specialist? Like, maybe not have them jump on maybe they won't lead the demo, but maybe they'll guide you and you'll do the work. You'll put in like, you'll get your hands dirty and do the work, and they'll just come in and show you how to do it, show you how to demo, show you how to do things. And it's a good investment of time for you and for them. So,
yeah. All right. Third question.
yeah, let's do it.
All right. Third question. So, hey, Anthony, Tony, there are a couple of things it would be interesting to hear you guys discuss. One, there is a common complaint amongst pre-sales professionals that, quote unquote, we do all the work and sales makes all the money, unquote, but we're already well compensated and would we actually want to do all the harder parts of sales if we had a higher OTE, but also higher risk of PIP? Second, a bit more specific, but still something that's been percolating. With the advent of LLMs, which is Chat GPT, Bard, etc., do pre-sales still need to be as technical and able to code, or should we be focused on how to use these tools to write code for us and become prompt engineers, shifting our focus to more strategic / business topics? So we could go back up to the first one and ask that.
Let's do the first one, where
Okay.
pre-sales say we do all the work and sales makes all the money.
All the money.
We do not do all the work. So as you know, I've been shifted out of my sales engineering role and more into a sales role. And I haven't, like, every SE I talk to who sit across, like, they sit across their salesperson, they see them do nothing during a call, like a demo. And they think that, oh, I can do their job better than them. So here's the thing. While you're sitting and you're complaining that they're doing nothing in a demo, they have their computer open, they're sending emails, which I don't like, but that's what they do. They're probably trying to reach out to a million other customers to close deals. They're trying to find new opportunities. They're trying to convince a customer to actually come and meet with them so you can bring them in and you can show up and you're the hero who comes in and solves the problem. After you do the demo, after you do the POC, they're the ones closing the deal, right? And that's like, you think it's easy work. It's not easy. It's difficult. Not like, if the SE does their job right, that's great. It makes the salesperson's job easier to negotiate and close the deal. But there's more things to it than what goes on with the customer. The salesperson is kind of selling the sales team to their management every single day. Every time there's a funnel review and they get beat up and chewed out, every time a deal gets pushed, right? Like, I get calls from VPs of sales telling me like, hey, Ramsey, we need $100,000 from you this month. Go get it. Like, all right, where am I going to go get it? Am I just going to create something out of thin air? And then they say, well, we don't care. Just go get it. And okay, what happens if I don't? Well, you will see, right? Sales is not an easy job. It's not even, there are some fun aspects to it, but it's a high stress, high reward job. Sales engineering is not. I mean, yes, it's long hours. Yes, there's the stress of performing a demo, but it's also fun to perform the demo. It's fun to work on these things. We get to sit back. We get to say, I need to learn technology, so I'm going to spend 4 hours today learning AWS. A salesperson does not have that luxury. If they're not meeting a customer, they're not doing their job. So, I mean, it's like, go try it, right? If you think you're going to be better than a salesperson at sales, go try it and see how your life changes. See how you're working longer hours. It might not be like, hey, I'm preparing a demo, but it might be like, oh, it's Friday night and my manager just told me that he needs to send a report to his manager by Monday. So now it's Friday night and I'm working on this freaking report. I mean, we get RFPs on Friday afternoon too. Like it's the same, but there's a lot more to sales than just what the SE sees. There's a lot going on behind the scenes, both with the customer and internally with the management. And if the SE doesn't hit their quota, it's the salesperson's job. If the salesperson doesn't hit their quota, they're gone. Depending on the company, but they might be gone.
Yeah. I don't know if you go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I know now you're in a different role, so you get to see it. Same here. I have worked within the go-to-market, working in marketing and, business development, and of course, being very close to the AE. So seeing their day-to-day, the tactical day-to-day thing that goes on. I mean, they're not just sitting back picking their nose, they are doing work. They're doing work in a different capacity.
It's not fun.
And they're hustling. They're definitely in the grind, and it's sometimes a little scary for them because they have this quota, and just like you said, I mean, it depends on the company, but I mean, I'm seeing in a lot of companies that AEs get let go really quick compared to SEs. And so yes, their job is to make sure that they hunt that deal down. That they're always making sure that they have accounts in the pipeline that's moving through that pipeline, it's scary. It's so I mean, that's I think what I want to say is I think more SEs there shouldn't be that silo where all they're seeing is like, well, I only see what I'm doing every day. They should be able to have some more empathy by maybe just really like seeing what are they doing day to day. And shadow. Even I would say shadow people should I think everybody should always do somebody else's part for a little bit just to get a little more insight.
Some companies do that. Some companies allow people to like rotate. The one thing I would say, like, find me an SE who will enjoy tracking fulfillment of a specific order.
Ooh.
Right? Sometimes salespeople don't get paid until an order is fulfilled, right? If there's hardware involved, that means shipping of pieces of equipment.
Yes. Ooh, yes. I remember this one.
I have to track shipments.
Yes.
Like that's my job right now. I have to track shipments, make sure that the customer is happy. We don't have customer success. We are also customer success. Like the sales team is customer success.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to make sure, because if we don't send it in time before quarter end, the customer might not have budget anymore and they will cancel that order. Tell me what SE wants to do that.
Right.
Find me one. I'm in sales. I didn't choose this role, but I'm in sales and I hate every second of like, what's the FedEx? You want me to get the FedEx? That's my job. Finding FedEx numbers now. Anyway,
yeah. Wow.
That I can go on to for half hour.
Yeah, I hear you. No, but like this is the behind the scenes stuff that SEs don't necessarily see. There's that stuff in the middle until finally, wow, the customer now has received the product. They're perhaps happy, they're happy using it. They're well adopted into it and integrated into it. But I mean, they don't know that part that's going on between there, to get that fulfillment. Yeah, there's a time where there's some customers who ordered with specificity on like, these are the specs that we want on this product. They get it shipped, delivered and everything like that, put it in their data center and go, we're missing this one piece right here. And this is the most important piece. Well, and everybody's like, oh, internally, like, oh no.
I was talking to another salesperson, and they're working with a customer. They're trying to replace a legacy product. And they asked all the right questions, whatever. And then the customer started using their product. And there's one legacy feature from the old product that hasn't been created for like 20 years that is not available. And now it's the sales team's fault how they didn't warn them about it. Like, but we didn't even know you needed that. That's not a question we even think to ask. And now the salesperson has to scramble, make sure that the customer is okay, scramble and trying to find a way to actually provide the solution to the customer, or lose the entire deal. If they lose that $1 million deal, that's like 20% of their quota. The SE is still safe. They're getting paid 80% of their salary anyways. The salesperson just lost 25% of their salary right there. And it's not like the old days where salespeople are driving Ferraris and whatnot because Nortel is buying all the equipment. It's no, like salespeople, sure, they get paid good enough money, but everything's also more expensive. So it like I rarely like, yeah, maybe some salesperson has been doing it for 30 years to have a Mustang, but as salespeople have been doing it for 5, 10 years, they're still driving their Nissan Rogue that has a hole in it up front because their wife drove into a rock. Never mind, that's a different story. That's a very specific story.
Get an imagination now.
Yeah, yeah.
In my head.
She was pregnant and she said it's baby brains, so whatever. So yeah, I mean, I would say like I always encourage people to they won't know if they'll like something until they try it. Everybody wants to be a sales engineer, but they don't know if they're going to hate it or not until they actually do the job of a sales engineer. Because we talk about sales engineers like best job ever. You're going to have so much fun. You're going to go to lunches and dinners and do all these things. And then you show up as a sales engineer and it's like, oh, it's the best job ever. I'm going to lunches every damn day. I have to go dinner every night with the customer. Right now, it's different. Now it's reality. Also, it could be like, oh, you're gonna be visiting customers and all that. It's like, all right, I got an inside SE job. I'm sitting in front of a computer doing demos 24/7. That's not what I wanted to be as an SE. So, if you think that you're gonna be better as at sales than as a salesperson, it's very possible that you might go take that job, do it, and see if you will be better or not, or just stay as an SE and don't complain about it. Enjoy the security of being an SE. Rant over.
There you go. Okay, so second point. This SE asks a bit more specific, but still something that's been percolating with the advent of LLMs, Chat GPT, Bard, etc. Do pre-sales still need to be as technical and able to code, or should we be focused on how to use these tools to write code for us and become prompt engineers, shifting our focus to more strategic / business topics?
Just to be clear, most SEs or many SEs don't need to know how to code.
What's just to clarify, what is LLMs? What does that stand for, that acronym?
Well, you're putting me on the spot. LLM, deep learning. Well, what does that mean? Logic learning machine.
Okay.
See, I didn't use LLM to do it, but I figured out the answer. So a lot of SEs don't need to know how to code. If you're in networking, you might need to do some Python automation or whatever, but it's not generally the main job description.
Yeah. And want to say too, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know.
No, go ahead.
And then also in terms of coding, it's more like scripting, or at least just copy and pasting specific scripts and just knowing when to paste that script in, which, again, this was pre-made by a development team. You just have to know when to put it in to open up, whatever functionality, application, etc., or workflow.
I mean, like right now, you might not need to know how to write code, but you need to know how to understand it. Because if you prompt a chat GPT to send you to, hey, create a code to do this for me, and you read it and then you use it and now you can't debug it because something is off, it doesn't integrate well into your environment. I mean, you're always going to have to be technical in one way, shape, or form. I think what chat GPT is doing is just making it faster for you to get the results. And also, I think a lot of people have heard the story about the Samsung engineer who put in Samsung code into chat GPT to make it better, and then they realize that, holy crap, now it's public. So you just have to be careful about that. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not saying anything about that. Just be conscious that there's more to it than just like if you put in code. I mean, some companies have their own internal. They buy subscription to ChatGPT and it's internal use only. That's possible, but I mean, we've always been prompt engineers. I think it's more like Google engineers. We just go on Google and look for information Right now, we just have another tool in our toolbox that we can use to help us get the results even faster than just with Google. I hope that answers the question.
I hope so too,
And
because
one,
huh?
one more thing to add. Our job has always been to focus on the strategic and the business topics. Right. And for me, that's where I could leverage other people, where it became a little bit more like, not like I'm good with technology, but if it takes time and takes me away from the next opportunity, I would leverage other people to do it. Whether it's support, whether it's engineering, whether it's a fellow SE who enjoys doing that work, I would leverage them and keep focusing on the business, which is probably why I got shifted out of sales engineering and into sales. Right. So just be careful of that. Don't go on paternity leave. That's all I'm going to say.
How are we on time right now for you?
I think we're. Is there like we can handle one more question if there is one. If there isn't,
Let me see if there is one. I don't think there's any more. There was those three. I think one of the other individual thought that this episode was going to be later on in the day, but I think this individual is too late. So there are no other questions at this moment.
I can say this: if you have more questions and you want to send it to Tony and keep it anonymous to me, you can do that, and we'll do another session. I mean, I enjoy talking to Tony, and even if I didn't, I'll suffer through it just to answer some of your questions.
There you go.
I'm a good friend, I know. All right.
All right. So yeah, this was good. You know, 3 questions was, I think, a pretty nice one.
Yep.
I like the whole rule of 3. So you know, obviously, I believe there's going to be a lot more coming up because people still have thoughts that they have in their head that they want to relay, but just not within this episode. So hopefully next one.
Yeah, I wanted to summarize for the first question. Instead of thinking of how to differentiate yourself, think about how you can serve others. That, generally speaking, differentiates you from others. When you're like, if you're doing discovery on certain like you're uncertain with the technology, just get comfortable being uncomfortable, leverage other people, or do just-in-time learning. Right.
To summarize all these questions you're saying.
Yeah.
So
and
point one. So
the last one, if you think you do the job better than a salesperson, go do it. Don't talk about it. Put your money where your mouth is. And yeah, now you have more tools in your toolbox to actually get the job done faster. Cool.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you guys. Thank you all for listening. Hope they see and hear from you soon.
Yeah. With that, and for Tony, we're signing off.
Signing off.